Welcome to Fight Club 24/7. My name's Johnny Rashman. Right, let's get straight into it. KSI's promotional outlet, Misfits Boxing, put an event on Saturday night. And I did say last week on social media that I will buy it, I will watch it, and I'll review it on Monday morning. So here we go. Right, first of all, let me make it clear. This is the first time I've watched one of these YouTuber boxing cards, right? I have been that person who's criticised it, who said it's made a mockery of boxing. I have been that person, but I'm also not stubborn enough to change my opinion. And the one thing that can't be denied is there's an audience for this. There's a market for it, right? There is a conflict with normal boxing, with people in traditional boxing. They don't like it. They're annoyed by it. They're angered by it. And some of it's correct. Some of the criticism is correct. And some of it's not, right? Let me make this clear. This is not professional boxing, right? There's a case to say it's not really boxing. It's white-collar boxing, which is not amateur, not professional. It's basically anyone can do it. You can put a charity event on, have 10 fights, and you can be a businessman, a butcher, a lawyer, and you can box. That's what white-collar boxing is. So this is that. It's white-collar boxing. It's not professional boxing. It's very important not to get the lines blurred, right? When you start comparing it to professional boxing, that's where the problems come. And that's where people get angered, right? You have to understand, us boxing fans, we love the sport, right? This is our sport. We love it. It's different to other sports because it's not like it's not like football where you support different teams. You know, you support that team. As boxing fans, yes, we have fighters who we may favour, but we love the sport. We want the sport to thrive and we want it to do well. And the politics that's involved with it, we know professional boxing is the Wild West, right? And we only have ourselves to blame in the world of boxing with the fights not happening, the politics, the constant, the garbage that we see week in, week out. There's issues in professional boxing, right? We get it. However, when it comes to YouTuber boxing, right, it's important to make it clear that the target market is not your traditional boxing fans. So this idea from the boxing world that they're taking eyes away from the sport and they're taking money from fighters, it's not true, right? The crowd that was there, right, and it's the first time I can comment on this, are young kids, you know, the 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 13-year-olds, where the mum's going to take them on a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday night, or the whole family's going to go. So these aren't people where there's 5 guys and they're throwing beers everywhere and they're singing Sweet Caroline and like that. That's not happening, right? This is a young market. So the idea that it's taken away eyes from professional boxing is not true. It's not. This is a different market. It's a different demographic, right? So I have to make that clear. So I understand what they're trying to do with it. And one of the things that converted me was I saw an interview with Mams Taylor. I believe he's one of the promoters of Misfits Boxing. And I didn't know much of this guy. I've never really heard of him before. But I listened to this interview and I thought he came across very well, very intelligent. He made it clear it's not professional boxing. They're going to stay in their lane. There's a different vision for it. And then a few weeks later, they've signed a 5-year sponsorship with DAZN. So I can understand it. And look, professional boxing and YouTuber boxing can live side by side. However, there are certain rules that need to be adhered to, right? And I'm going to go into that. Right. I pull it on a Saturday night. I ordered it, £11 or whatever it was. I'm going to go through the card with the main event and I'm going to go backwards first, right? So I'm going to start with the KSI fight. First of all, let me make it clear about the production value. I thought it was very good. I thought very professional, very slick. It looked good. So I've got to give credit to that. It looked very, very professional. The presenting team, you had Adi Adelipo. I like him. I think he's a fantastic broadcaster. I think one of the main signs of a good presenter and broadcaster is, you know, they're like that when they're away from the camera. I'm similar. I'm a similar person where what you see on camera is what you see off camera. There's no persona, there's no bullshit. I am what I am. And you can tell Adi Adelipo is just a nice guy. Like, he is. So I like him as a presenter. You had another fella, that Wade Concert, which he did a video a few weeks ago about Dylan Dennis who was breaking down the fight, and I didn't think it was great. I did a video about it myself. There was things on there he wasn't really picking up about how poor Dylan Dennis was as a boxer, But look, listen, he's doing his thing. He's got his space in the YouTuber boxing world. I'm not going to hate on him. And he's a decent presenter. So I could see it from a kid's point of view. You've got to remember, this is not aimed at me, a traditional boxing fan, right? So you've got to take your eyes off it and look at what would kids think. And I don't mind. I thought the presenting team was okay, right? Going to the KSI fight. One of the things that really, really annoyed me, right, and will annoy many boxing fans, is the national anthems before the fight started, right? Let me tell you something, right? Yes, KSI is a big star, right? He is, but he is not a star because of boxing. He is a guest of boxing, right? So when you're saying that YouTuber boxing are going to stay in their own lane, right, then you need to stay in your own lane. And what I mean by that is you can't be taking the traditions and customs from boxing and then putting it in your realm, right? If you look at the big fights throughout history, your Mayweather-Hattins, your Pacquiao-Mayweathers, you know, you have the national anthems on, whether it's a big world title fight, it's a big fight. Usually the national anthems come on and the fighters are in the locker room and, you know, the juices are flowing. Hatton and Mayweather, I remember when there was the bloke singing the American national anthem and you could see Mayweather training and you get the goosebumps, do you know what I mean? You know it's a big fight. Why on earth was the national anthems playing with KSI and this other YouTuber? Like, come on, mate. You're taking the piss. Like, that's taking the piss. Like, now, look, you might have a bigger following than most of the boxers, right? You might have fancy shorts. You might be able to talk like a fighter, but you are not a professional fighter. You're not. Right? That's it. You're not. You might be able to fool your 13-year-old kids or your 10-year-old kids, right? And I'm not being disrespectful here. Now, I think I'm making a valid point, right? To have the national anthems is you're taking something from real boxing and it's sort of taking the piss. Like, if you're gonna stay in your own lane, stay in your own lane. That's making a mockery. It's like a Sunday League pub team playing a Champions League national anthem. Do you know, beforehand, people take the piss. They what are you doing? Like, I think that's a bad look. I don't know whose idea that was. I don't know if he's done that on all his fights, but on a YouTuber boxing card, to have the national anthems playing, it's like, you've done nothing to earn that, right? As I said, you are famous. You're coming from a different industry. You are not famous because of boxing. You are a guest of boxing, right? So come on, let's not take the piss. I thought that was a bit of a joke. Going into his fight, I've got to be completely honest. You know, I've bashed Jake Paul many times, right? And I bash him when he starts comparing himself to professional fighters and he's going to fight Canelo, he's going to be a world champion. That's when I'll say, listen, I'm putting up with that. Like, other outlets might play along with it for the clicks and the views. I'm not putting up with it, right? You're not going to be a world champion. You're not going to fight Canelo. And that's not me being negative towards a bloke. That's me telling you the reality of the situation, because I don't believe Jake Paul is saying that to be positive. He's saying that just to manipulate his fans into thinking there's levels in boxing, that you can just be a world champion by training for 2 years. You can't. And people might you might make a comparison with Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, but listen, they started boxing late, but they went through the amateur system, right? You just can't be a world champion. You can't skip levels, right? And that's what annoys me. That takes the piss, right? But I have to be completely honest. If you look at KSI's last 3 opponents, it's taking the piss, isn't it, really? Right? Because you're calling out Tommy Fury, you're calling out Joe Fournier, right? Who are boxers. Granted, not world level or anything like that, right? But there's still people who have dedicated their time to boxing. They've not done MMA for 20 years and had broken legs and come out of the sport, retired, and had a few boxing fights. No, they have concentrated on boxing. There'll be many hours that you've not seen them in the gym, sparring, learning the craft, right? And they've had a few fights. As I said, not going to be world champions, but they are boxers to a degree, right? So if you're going to call out these boxers, again, this is what I'm saying about blurring the lines with professional boxing and YouTuber boxing. If you're going to call professional boxers out, you can't fight the last 3 opponents. A YouTuber, this Face Temper, that Lewis Pinder, which I'll get into in a minute, and Swarms, who'd never boxed before. Like, come on. Like, if Jake Paul did that, everyone would be going mad, wouldn't they? Like, as much as a good guy KSI is, and he's got a good fan base, those last 3 opponents, it's just a fucking joke. Like, it's a joke. And I don't, in my opinion, I believe Jake Paul will knock him out. I want KSI to win because he's from the UK. I always back the British fighter. But, you can't go from fighting YouTubers to fighting someone who at least is taking it seriously and is fighting. I like MMA fighters, but they're still fighters, right? They're not just YouTubers learning to box. They still can box to a certain degree, right? And I think it showed in the fight. Again, when I watched KSI, I don't think he's a particularly great boxer. I think he's quite strong and he's got decent power, but I don't look at him and I think he's got any particular boxing skill. I mean, the combination that he finished with is, I mean, if you actually analyze that from a technique point of view, it was very, very sloppy. He just fell into the punch. I think it was a right hand, left hook. Now, usually when you throw a right hand, left hook, it's just bang, right? And you keep your distance. He falls into it. So against any type of competent boxer, they'll just literally catch that on the glove and bang, counter, right? When you're not fighting a boxer, you can get away with that. You can get away with it, right? You can rush in, you can make sloppy mistakes, and you might be able to land the punch, right? That'll get you the knockout, but it's not going to work against someone who's got any type of really boxing ability. But I understand what he's doing. Look, he's trying to get an audience. He's trying to make hype for the Jake Paul fight. I can see what he's doing, but I've got to call out the opponents. Like, I know he was meant to fight Dylan Dennis, and he pulled out. We all know what happened with that. I think Alex Wasabi beforehand in his last fight. But I don't understand how you're picking an opponent who's lost his last fight. Why don't you fight that slim fella? Like, if you're hesitant to fight someone like Slim, who isn't a boxer, he's one of the better YouTuber boxers. But if you're hesitant to fight him, you're fighting the guy who he lost to. That tells me that you don't really have you don't really believe in your ability. You might say it, and you might, I want a piece of this, and you might put your persona on. But look, that's for the camera. You're not fooling me here, right? You can see by you're worrying about even YouTuber boxing level. So the idea that you're going to fight fighters like Tommy Fury and you're saying Joe Fournier next, I don't believe that happens. I'm happy to be proven wrong. This is not KSI hate, by the way. I like him. He's a nice guy. I don't watch his content. I never knew who he was before he fought Logan Paul. Let's not be disrespectful. I just don't watch his content. But what I have seen of him, he seems like a real good guy. And I like what he's doing with the Misfits boxing. I do. If you just keep it as YouTuber boxing, don't cross the lines with professional boxing. I like what he's doing with it, right? But as always with myself, you're going to get a brutally honest assessment. It doesn't matter if I like you, if you pay me, if you don't pay me, I give you my opinion. That's what, when you're watching something from Fight Club 24/7, and whether it's Johnny Rashman or anyone on the channel, right, and there will be more people coming on the channel, you're going to get brutally honest assessments. That's it. There's no sugarcoating. There's no bullshit here. You're going to get a real opinion, right? And those opponents, they were a joke, right? I don't believe he's going to go from that lad's face temper to fighting Joe Fournier. Now, look, Joe Fournier is never going to be a world champion. He was never a particularly great boxer himself. But as I mentioned, he's someone who has boxed before, right? So the idea that he's going to fight him next, I don't believe happens. That's just my opinion, so we'll see. The fight before that was Slim and Tom Zanetti, 4 rounds. I may have been a bit harsh on Zanetti. I didn't realise that was his first fight. Slim is one of the better YouTuber boxers. It was a good fight. I was entertained by it, to be fair. There wasn't particularly great skill involved, but, Zanetti's not really got much boxing ability, but I didn't realise it was his first fight. But he's strong, he's tough. There's not much ability there. But I was relatively entertained. It is what it is. But one of the things I want to say as well is I keep hearing people say, oh, the difference with YouTuber boxing is the best fight the best. Like, let me make this clear. There was a lot of fights on that card that were just fucking complete mismatches. Like, this is Tom Zanetti's first fight. Why are you fighting someone like Slim? He's more experienced, well more experienced than someone like Tom Zanetti. He's been training, a few months? Slim's probably doing it for years. So that's not 50-50 fight. Okay, it was a good fight to watch, For me, it was pretty clear Slim was winning the fight. Okay, he might have got rocked one time, but he just won the fight clearly. I don't see how people can say it was close. Zanetti just didn't have a jab, didn't throw anything. He just swung with a right hand, but he was getting outboxing every round. So I didn't think that was close. I didn't think it was a 50-50 fight, to be fair, but I was relatively entertained by that. The fight before that, Salt Pappy, right. I never knew who Salt Pappy was till a few months ago. I'll be honest with you. I've seen a few clips from him and he looks like he's got a bit of ability. But again, this is a thing that's annoying me as well. Is a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he could be a professional boxer. He's amazing." In the YouTuber world, he's a very good YouTuber boxer, right? But do not get it twisted. He's not a professional boxer. It's very easy when you're fighting fighters who aren't good boxers, right? I can look like Floyd Mayweather against someone who can't box. You put me against a professional boxer, I won't look as good. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, he's got ability, Salt Pappy, but and he seems like a nice guy. And I'm going to be honest with you. Why are you calling out this Luis Pineda? That's what you called out first. Before you mentioned Jake Paul, he's calling out him. Like, come on, mate. Fucking hell. Like, you just want easy fights? It's just ridiculous. Like, come on. Like, you've got to be really, really clear that when you're fighting people who aren't boxers, you've got boxing experience to a degree, whether it's just been in a gym, whether you've been doing it for years, whether you've had a few amateur fights, whatever that is, you're always going to beat that guy. You're going to look at $1 million compared to that guy who's just not a great boxer. This Josh Bruckner, I believe he's an MMA fighter, tough, strong guy. He wasn't the worst boxer in the world, but again, just not a boxer. So you can get away with certain habits. You know, if you're fighting someone on your level, maybe they'll put the pressure on Salt Pappy. You know, maybe they'll put a double jab right hand in. Maybe they'll go left to the body, right to the body, bang, come up with a left hand. You know, they'll be a bit more creative. So you can look very good against people who aren't as good as you. So let's not pretend, let's not say he can be a professional boxer, right? He can't, right? If he took it seriously and dedicated himself, he looks a bit overweight. Could he be a professional boxer? Well, look, it depends what you say professional. Like, I mean, this Luis Pineda, he was classed as a professional boxer, but he's not really going to get to any type of level, Salt Pappy, I don't think. But in the YouTuber side of things, he has got ability, right? But let's not keep comparing it to professional fighters. Let me see him fight a competent boxer first, and let's see how he does when someone puts the pressure on him, right? The fight before that was this special announcement thing. It was a mystery fighter fighting this B-Dave. I don't know who he is. I still don't know who he is, this B-Dave. But it came in, the Undertaker's music came on, and it was Luis Pineda, the guy who KSI beat last time. And I may have been a bit harsh on that, again, with my caption. I said he had the heart of a crumpet. I actually believe that because, although, okay, it might be a good story, and I hear his manager say that this kid's got nothing and now he can provide for his family. And in this YouTube WWE entertainment kind of thing, he's like a pantomime villain now. People are liking him because like he lost to KSI and he's come back and he's won. But look at that fight. Don't tell me that was a 50-50 fight. This is meant to be a professional boxer. You're fighting a guy who's never boxed before. And when he got tired, you spat your gum shield out. You look like you didn't want to be there. So actually, I don't apologise for saying he has the heart of a crumpet. He fucking does. What are we celebrating here? We're celebrating someone being that shite that they've got a fan base. Like, and I get it. It's in this YouTuber world, and his manager, I get it. He's making money. I understand that. I look, I'm all for people making money. I don't know how tough his life's been. I'm sure it probably has been tough. So fair play. But if you're going to wear the Mexican fucking colours and you're just going to give up, or it looks like you're going to give up. KSI, in that KSI fight, he went down before he even got hit. Right? And this fight, it looked like he wanted to give up. And he's fighting someone I don't think who's ever boxed before. Like, I mean, how does that work? Like, how can you be celebrating beating a guy who doesn't box? Like, that's not something to celebrate. And you may say it's WWE and all that, but you're still fighting someone. You're still hitting someone's head. It's fucking dangerous. For me, it's bully boy tactics. When you want to fight someone who can't box and you're going in there, you know, you're landing the gloves on them, that's fucking bully boy tactics, right? I don't like that. And yes, I'm sure he's a nice guy and it's a good story and people call him the GOAT and they have a laugh and a joke with it and all that. But, like, what are we celebrating here? It's fucking ridiculous. Fight before that, Swarm's Ryan Taylor. This Swarm's guy, he's not been doing it for long, has he? This Ryan Taylor, I've not seen much of him fight. The clips I've seen, he's just don't have any ability, to be quite fair, to be quite honest with you. What happened was he got hit with a jab and basically he went to his corner. In Ryan Taylor's corner was a fighter called Kane Musa, right, who lives not too far from myself in Manchester. He's an MMA fighter, very tough guy, great story, turned his life around, successful businessman now, but he's a real fighter. And he was pleading with Ryan Taylor. He was saying, look, bro, come on, fight, let's go. And Ryan Taylor was giving every excuse. I can't see him, my brain's rattled and this and that. And for me, he looked like he didn't want to be there, right? And do I think he quit that fight? Yes, I do. If anything comes out to suggest he did have a legit injury, I'll hold my hands up, I'll say I was wrong. But when your cornerman's telling you to fight, you know, so there's obviously no injury pre-fight because your cornerman would know. Do you know what I mean? They'd pull you out. If you had some type of pre-existing injury, your cornerman wouldn't be saying you to fight on. They'd pull you out. And Kane Musa was literally begging him to fight, and he didn't want to fight. Afterwards, I saw a few tweets where he was saying he's fractured his retina, and okay, who's told you you've got a fractured retina? Have you had a X-ray? Can we see it? Right? If you're going to say that, show us proof. If you have, fair play, I'll hold my hands up, right? But he looked like he didn't want to be there. Fight before that, Ella Brooke against Faith Ordway. Again, I may have been a bit harsh in my caption, what I said, but I've got to be honest. You know, I heard Ebony Bridges say that she could have a few pro fights, Ella Brooke, and she did elaborate in that. She said if she went through the amateur system, or maybe she'll fight loads of YouTubers, get bored and have a few pro fights. At this moment in time, she can't fight with professional boxers. She can't. Like, again, look who she's fighting against, right? I thought that was a mismatch. She actually looks okay in parts, Ella Brooke. Like, fair play. She looks like she's taking shots. She's getting in there, right? She's got, she looks like she can throw combinations to a degree, but she's very, very, very green, right? You can see she's just throwing shots like that rather than taking the time. And that's what happens when you're inexperienced. I didn't when I've had a first white collar fight. You know, I looked great on the pads. As soon as I got in there, I was swinging. You know what I mean? It takes time to be able to be cool, calm and collective in there and pick your shots. That comes with experience. Can she fight as a professional boxer? No. Right? This is what I keep saying. Stop comparing it to professional boxers. You're going to look good against someone who's not a boxer. Faith Ordway, with no disrespect to her, there's not much ability there. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to look good when you're fighting people who aren't good boxers. So to keep comparing it to professional fighters, well, I think she could have a few pro fights against women. And, you know, this fighter started at 24 when she was a world champion at 39. And, you know, it's like, I'm just saying it now. Maybe she'll dedicate herself and maybe she'll go down the pro route if she keeps on improving. But I can only go for what I see now. Stop comparing it to professional boxers. We have to see fighters fight people who can actually box before you start putting them in with professional fighters. Last but not least, the first fight, and I've got a big bugbear about this, right? Because I think this is what's taking the piss, right? As I keep saying, we heard Mom's Tale and we've heard people say YouTubers are going to stay in their lane. So why have you got a professional boxer fighting on your card? That is absolutely unbelievable. Now, I know Anthony Taylor's fought Tommy Fury. Okay, he might have fought another pro boxer, but he's not a boxer, right? He's got a physique like he just looks like he does dumbbells and bench press. He was gassed out after a minute. You know, he's a tough guy, Anthony Taylor. And to be honest, I think he was set up a bit there, right? Because that's not great matchmaking. You shouldn't. Idris Virgo's had 12 fights. Okay, he's not particularly great boxer. He's probably British level. Even if that, you know, he's not going to be a world champion or anything. But he's a legit fighter. Like, to put him in with Taylor, it was just a complete mismatch. Again, people are saying the best fight, the best, but that wasn't a competitive fight. It was a comfortable victory. And if it would have gone a few more rounds, Virgo would have knocked him out brutally. He is tough, Anthony Taylor. I know he talks a load of shit and all of that, but look, you've got to, you've got to see he's doing that for attention, right? We all know it's bullshit, right? But that fight for me, as I said, if you're gonna say YouTuber boxing are gonna stay in their own lane, if you're gonna say that, you can't have a professional boxer on there. Afterwards, Virgo celebrated like he's won a world title. Okay, I get it. It's for the crowd. And then he calls out that Slim. Like, that's a fucking liberty, mate. Like, that is an absolute liberty. Now, yes, this Slim fella might be one of the better YouTuber boxers, but come on, to call out someone who has no professional experience, right? I'm pretty sure he's probably had no amateur experience. Like, to call him out and to say, I'm going to break you, that's just fucking taking the piss. Like, I understand what he's doing. He's going to make more money doing that than he's ever going to make in professional boxing. I understand that. But, like, that can't happen. That is dangerous. Right? No matter who's them, and no matter if the crowd's 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, whatever that is, that's fucking dangerous. To have a professional fighter fight a YouTuber, it's extremely dangerous, because if they get hit in the wrong place and they go down and there's an injury caused, the whole thing explodes then. And guess who has to deal with it? It's boxing. Real boxing that'll have to deal with the ramifications. So it's all good high-fiving, everyone's celebrating, it's just great, we're doing this, we're doing that. But if someone gets injured, right, which will happen if you were to match professional fighters against YouTubers, there's going to be a major problem. So you have to stop the professional aspect, the professional fighters fighting on these cards. You've got to stop it. Complete no-go. There should be a ban that you cannot fight on these cards if you are a professional boxer. That's it. Whether you had 1, 2, 3, 10 fights, that's it. You shouldn't be on the card. It's as simple as that. If you're going to fight a professional boxer on the card, okay, fine. But then this is where the lines are blurred. 1 minute you're saying you're YouTuber boxing, you're going to stay in your lane. The next minute you're putting a professional boxer's calling out a YouTuber. So if you're going to stay in your lane, stay in it, right? As I said, I've come around to it. It's WWE. It's not boxing. Once you understand that, you can enjoy it a bit more, right? So, as I've said before, the idea is taking money off people, is taking money from real fighters and all this and that. I don't believe that. It's a different market, right? But there are people in the boxing who are angered by this, and they're angered by it because they want people taking the piss. Boxing is an honourable sport when the fighters are fighting. Yes, the business side's a shit show. We understand that, right? It's just fucking a joke, right? But it's still two men fighting each other. Like, you can't, you have to understand this, that people are going to get annoyed if you're going to compare, if you're going to blur the lines and compare it with professional boxing, right? The moment you say you're going to stay in your lane, then stay in your lane. There should be no professional boxers on there. It should just be YouTubers against YouTubers. That's it. MMA fighters, if they want to come in, okay, I can get with that, right? Because at the end of the day, they are not boxers, they're MMA fighters. If it's a boxer who's had, a few professional fights and maybe 10 fights or whatever, and then he's done MMA, it's a little bit different. But, I can understand MMA fighters who aren't good strikers, right? I can understand that. I don't have a problem with it, but you can't have professional fighters on the card. That's what's making the mockery of it. So to summarise it, what did I think? I enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie. I saw it for what it was. I'll probably have to just keep evolving with my mindset with it. Maybe not critique the fighters so much on the skill and just see it for what it is. But I thought it was entertaining, right? I did. I thought, these YouTubers, I don't know much about him, but I'm starting to know a little bit more. And the main thing is that they sell themselves. The most important thing in boxing is you've got to tell your story. You've got to get those fans interested. And these guys are fucking amazing at it. They built their career on building the profile, different personas. They get it. They understand it, right? So that's why the fans are there from the beginning to the end, because they're invested in these fighters' stories. And I think professional boxing can take a lot from that, right? I do. I think selling yourself is extremely important. You have to remember also, like I said before, these aren't fighters who are famous because they're boxers. You know, they've had the luxury of building their profile. You know, boxing, you training fucking twice a day. You know, you're cutting weight. You know, it is hard to allocate time to build your profile, but at the same time, you still have to do it. You have to see it as part of your job, right? Because if you're not going to build your profile, if you're going to be silent, if you're just going to sit there and say, I'm going to fight him and that's it, that can be fine. But if your management team isn't doing anything to promote you, right, they're just putting the odd tweet out, then there's an issue, isn't there? I see it all the time. Right, I do, and it really annoys me. And a lot of fighters ask me for advice. I have fighters who are just turning pro, who have had pro fights, who have fought for fringe world titles, who will DM me because I know I'll give them my time, right, and they'll ask me for bits of advice. How should I market myself? How can I do this? Should I call this one out? And I'll give them my time, right? And I believe myself, maybe down the line, maybe I'd be an advisor to someone. I don't know, right? Because I understand the game. I understand it's important to sell yourself, right? And there's so many teams out there, so many fighters where they've got management teams and this, and they're just not being pushed. Like, they're happy to take the 10%, 15% on fight night. And yes, they might be arranging the fights, but they're doing nothing to build a profile. And that's why they're not getting the opportunity. There's so many fighters I know who should be on TV. And once they got on TV, they'll stay there. But because they're not getting the fans interested in them, that's the issue, right? So professional boxing can take something from that, right? They can. So it's important to mention that. But I'm not going to shit on that. I think YouTuber boxing and professional boxing can live side by side. They can. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think of this video? Do you think I'm talking sense? Do you think I'm talking shit? Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know.